Chapter 2. Meeting with Ms. Hunt. My phone buzzed at 9:12 a.m. I was still half asleep, cheek stuck to the couch cushion that smelled like last night's cocoa butter and fear. I'd come home, kicked off my shoes, and tried to forget what just happened. Didn't even bother with dinner. If you like stories like this, please like and subscribe for more weekly episodes. Let me continue with the story. The buzz came again. Not a text. That dull, businesslike ping of a new email. For a second, I thought it was the hospital schedule. Maybe they needed someone to pick up an extra shift. God had a sense of humor. I squinted at the screen. From Hunt, Patricia, HR. Subject, meeting request. Discussion of incident on 5C. Time, 1 p.m. Location, HR office, Suite 304. That was it. No greeting, no body text. Just those words sitting there like a judge waiting to be obeyed. My stomach dropped, but my pride kicked in right behind it. They wouldn't fire me over that, I told myself. It's not like I actually hit her. Sarah was already clattering around in the kitchen, music low, humming along to something that sounded like SZA. "You up?" she called. "Unfortunately," I said, sitting up and rubbing my face. "Guess who just got an email from HR?" She peeked around the corner, cereal box in one hand, spoon in the other. "What did you do?" Gretchen snitched. Sarah laughed, not because it was funny, but because that's how she deals with bad news. "What you do, swing on her?" "I said I would." Sarah's eyebrows jumped. "Oh, you said the words?" "I didn't mean it like—" I started, then stopped. I couldn't even defend it without sounding stupid. She set the cereal down and leaned against the wall. "Girl, you can't be threatening people in scrubs. That's federal energy." She's been following me for weeks, asking about my charting, standing in rooms like she's the boss of me. I told her to back off. "And you added the remix," Sarah said. "Before I kick your ass." I gave her a look. "You quoting me now?" "Just fact-checking, sis." I sighed, dragging my hands down my face. They'll probably write me up. Maybe suspend me for a week. Sarah shook her head. "Talia, if HR sends you an email with no details, no body, just a meeting?" "They already made a decision. That ain't a conversation. That's a decision." The words sat heavy. I wanted to argue, but she wasn't wrong. I showed up at 12:45. The HR office was on the 3rd floor, where the air smelled like paper and lemon wipes instead of people. The carpet was that gray-blue that's supposed to calm you down, but it just made me feel like I was walking into a waiting room for the axed. Ms. Hunt's assistant, a too cheerful woman with mauve lipstick, smiled as soon as I came through the door. "Hi, you must be Talia. Ms. Hunt will see you in just a moment." Her voice was so high and light, I wanted to ask if she inhaled helium for breakfast. I nodded, took a seat in the corner chair, and stared at the framed poster on the wall. Integrity, doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. I almost laughed. Even when Gretchen is watching, I thought. At 1:03, Ms. Hunt's door opened. She was one of those women who always looked freshly ironed. Pressed blouse, pearl earrings, smile that didn't quite make it to her eyes. "Talia," she said, "come on in." Her office was smaller than I expected. A single window with blinds drawn halfway. On her desk sat a stack of files, a steaming mug of something herbal, and a little ceramic frog holding a breathe sign. I took the chair across from her. "Thank you for coming," she said, folding her hands. "I'm afraid this isn't the kind of meeting anyone enjoys." "Yeah," I said, "me neither." She glanced down at the paper on her desk, cleared her throat, and began reading in that slow HR tone that's designed to sound neutral but always feels like a scalpel. "It's been reported that yesterday evening, during your shift on 5C, there was a verbal altercation between yourself and a colleague, Gretchen Hall. According to Ms. Hall's statement, she approached you to ask a work-related question, and you responded by using profanity and threatening physical violence. Her eyes flicked up at me. Does that sound accurate? I hated that question. It was the kind that traps you no matter how you answer. I sat up straight. She came into my assigned area again after I told her to stop following me. I didn't curse her out. I told her, and I quote, "Stay the hell away from me before I kick your ass." Ms. Hunt's pen froze mid-note. So you're confirming you said those words? I hesitated. That tiny pause, the kind that lasts half a heartbeat but decides your future. Yes, I said finally. But I didn't mean I was gonna do it. Look, she's been harassing me for a month. I snapped. I shouldn't have said it, but… Talia, she interrupted softly. I appreciate your honesty. But verbal threats, regardless of intent, violate our zero-tolerance policy. My jaw tightened. Even if it's just words? Even if she's been… The policy doesn't require physical contact, she said. Only the credible threat of it. I sat back. The air in the room went thick. My pulse was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. So that's it? I asked. No write-up? No suspension? Just… What? Fired? Ms. Hunt exhaled through her nose, like she was sorry but also very practiced at being sorry. I have to terminate your employment effective immediately. You'll receive your final paycheck by mail within 10 business days. I blinked. You serious? I am, she said. You'll need to return your badge and hospital-issued items before leaving the building. I stared at her. My throat felt like it was closing. I've been here a year and a half. I've never missed a shift. My charting's clean. My patients like me. I know, she said, and for a second I thought I saw something real in her face. You're good at what you do, Talia. But this isn't about performance. It's about conduct. I wanted to throw something. Not at her, not even at Gretchen, just at the unfairness of it. But I didn't. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my badge and set it on the desk. The lanyard made a soft clink against the wood. Ms. Hunt stood up. I'm truly sorry. Yeah, I said, standing too. Me too. I walked out before she could say anything else. The elevator ride down was quiet, but my reflection in the mirrored doors looked like someone I didn't know yet. Jaw tight, eyes too wide, chest rising fast like I was the patient now. In the lobby, I passed Ron from day shift. He opened his mouth to say something, but one look at my face shut him right back up. By the time I hit the parking lot, the sun was too bright. It made everything look like it was pretending to be okay. I got in my car, closed the door, and let out a breath that came out half laugh, half growl. Sarah was right. That email wasn't a warning. It was a goodbye. I sat there for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do next. Then I started the car, rolled down the window, and drove home in a daze. The world outside the hospital looked exactly the same, but I wasn't part of it anymore. By the time I pulled up in front of our duplex on Pendleton, the afternoon had that sticky Carolina heat that makes the air humid. My scrubs were creased at the knees, badge lanyard gone, hair pulled into a bun that felt too tight. It was 2:30 p.m., the hour when the world still looked like work, but mine had just ended. The house was quiet except for the faint sound of a fan thumping rhythmically in the back room. Sarah's car was already there. A black Altima with a cracked taillight that looked like it had been punched. I pushed open the front door. The smell of hair grease and air freshener hit me first. Sarah was sitting at the dining table with her laptop open, braiding her own hair while scrolling Facebook. She looked up mid-twist. Why you home early? I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door, the clink louder than it should have been. Got fired. Her hands froze mid-braid. Say what now? Miss Hunt. HR. Zero tolerance policy, I said, mimicking the tone with 2 fingers raised like quotation marks. Effective immediately. Sarah's eyes widened. Girl, no. Girl, yes. I kicked off my shoes and let them land where they wanted. All because Gretchen can't mind her damn business. Sarah let out a long whistle, shook her head slow. So you really said it, huh? I dropped into the chair across from her. I didn't swing. I just said it. Still, she said, twisting the braid tighter, they don't care about context. They just care about paperwork. They don't write down tone. Yeah, well, I muttered. They wrote down my unemployment real quick. She leaned back and gave me that look, half pity, half, I told you so, but loving underneath. So what now? I don't know. File for unemployment, maybe. Apply to Prisma, Bon Secours. Somebody's always hiring. But I can't even... I stopped, rubbing my temples. I don't even want to think about it right now. Sarah smirked. Then don't. Let's go to Doty's. I frowned. What for? Because you sitting here looking like a sad nurse in a Grey's Anatomy rerun, she said. You need to breathe. Get out the house. I don't feel like... Girl, stop. You know Doty got people over all the time. Music, food, something to laugh at. Let's go. I wanted to say no. Really, I did. But sitting in that house, staring at the same walls that had seen me come home tired but proud every weekend shift, felt like punishment. Fine, I said finally. But I'm not staying long. Sarah grinned, already standing up. That's what they all say. We got dressed quick. She threw on some jean shorts and a tank top. I changed into a t-shirt and leggings, pulled my hair into a low ponytail. My scrubs went straight into the laundry basket, like maybe washing them could erase the memory attached. The ride to Berea was short, windows down, summer air whipping through. Sarah drove, music blasting, some old Gucci Mane mixed with Megan Thee Stallion, and for a second, I almost felt like everything was normal again. When we turned onto Cedar Lane Road, the world changed pace. The houses looked tired but lived in. Kids rode bikes barefoot, riding down the street with popsicles half melted down their arms. Old men sat on milk crates outside the corner store, passing brown paper bags like communion. River Run Apartments sat back off the road, a cluster of red brick buildings with faded numbers and half-working lights. It wasn't the worst part of town, but it had character. Loud, messy, honest. Doty's building was second from the end. She lived on the ground floor with a front window full of plants that somehow survived her forgetting to water them. Sarah knocked twice in that pattern they'd been using since high school, 3 fast, 1 slow, and Doty's voice came from inside. Doors open. We stepped into a haze of incense and laughter. The TV was blaring Family Feud, and somebody had replaced Steve Harvey's voice with a TikTok remix that made him sound like he was rapping about survey questions. Doty was at the kitchen counter, cutting up lemons for something in a plastic pitcher. Look at y'all, she said, smiling wide. Talia, you finally off for the weekend? Off for life, apparently, I said. She stopped mid-stir. Hold up. What you mean? Sarah answered before I could. She got fired. Doty's eyebrows went up so high they almost touched her wig line. Say what? I explained it, quickly, dryly, leaving out the part where my voice had cracked in HR. By the end, Doty was shaking her head slow. See, that's why I can't work for nobody, she said. They love you right up until you tell the truth too loud. Then you become a problem. Exactly, I said, pointing at her like I'd found my lawyer. Gretchen been in my space for weeks. She jealous, Doty said matter-of-factly, pouring us both cups of whatever she'd mixed, lemonade with a kick by the taste. Probably mad 'cause you young, you cute, and you actually know what you're doing. Sarah clinked her cup against mine. To the unemployed. I smirked. Thanks, sis. Really inspiring. Dodie laughed. Don't worry, I got a job for you, bartending at Ely's. All you gotta do is pour drinks and ignore old men. Ely's? I repeated. That hole in the wall on Washington? Hole in the wall is where all the fun people at, she said. Come on, let's go. You need air. I already got air, I said. Unpaid air. Sarah grinned. Nah, you need atmosphere. 10 minutes later, we were back in the car, the lemonade buzz settling in nicely. As we turned onto Washington Street, I noticed the whole scene before we even parked. People were everywhere. They scattered into small groups under the flickering streetlights. Music drifted from car windows. The smell of fried food, weed, and summer sweat hung heavy in the air. It wasn't chaos, it was rhythm. Everybody out there had a purpose, somebody to meet, something to sell, something to watch. I parked behind a car that had a loose bumper held together with white rope, right behind a little store with hand-painted numbers on the window. Sarah and Dodie were already halfway across the street before I even closed my door. I leaned against the trunk for a second, watching the flow of it all, money passing hands, people laughing, little nods exchanged like unspoken codes. There was something magnetic about it. Not pretty, not clean, like organized chaos. Washington Street hit me like a tornado. I was swept up into its eye. The block thumped, bass lines had trunks rattling, car doors were open, blunts were being bussed down, dice were being thrown against the store wall. A man and woman were arguing and threatening to end it all. The air felt thick, humid, alive with something I couldn't name. Sarah and Dodie walked ahead, blending into it easy. Me, I stood out. Not because of what I wore, but because I was looking. People who belonged here moved different. They didn't scan the scene. They flowed through it like water. Every nod, every glance had a purpose. Money seemed to move faster than conversations. Dodie spotted somebody she knew and hollered, "Jay," across the street. A man in a fitted cap lifted his chin in acknowledgement and went right back to his conversation. Sarah nudged me. You gon' stand there looking lost? Or you gon' move? I forced a laugh. I'm moving. Just taking it in. We cut across the street toward Ely's, a squat brick building with a hand-painted sign that looked older than my grandma. The door was propped open, and the music inside was twice as loud as necessary. Old school R&B mixed with Clarence Carter. Inside, the air smelled like beer, bleach, and barbecue smoke drifting in from somewhere out back. Ely himself stood behind the counter, wiping down glasses with a towel that had seen better days. He looked up and smiled when he saw Dodie. Well, if it ain't River Run's finest. You still talking slick, Ely? Dodie said, grinning. You need to give me my bartender application back. He laughed, deep and genuine. You know you fired yourself last time. Sarah leaned on the bar. What's the special tonight? Ely pointed at a handwritten sign taped to the wall. $3 shots, $3 pig ears, $1 beers, no refunds, no excuses. Perfect, Sarah said, already in her purse. I hung back, scanning the place. 2 pool tables, both occupied. A small crowd near the back, men leaning over the felt, smacking cues, calling shots with the swagger of people who bet on everything. The bar stools were full of regulars who didn't need menus because they were the menu. Dodie caught my expression. What you think? I think this place got more rules than the hospital, I said. She laughed. You ain't wrong. Sarah handed me a cup. Drink. You too, tense. I took a sip, something sweet and strong that burned going down. What is this? Liquid therapy, Sarah said. Don't ask too many questions. We stayed at Ely's about an hour. I didn't talk much, just watched. Watched the way people exchanged folded bills underhand, how one man at the corner booth never seemed to move, but somehow everyone came to him. Watched the rhythm of it all, how everyone seemed to have a role. By the time we stepped back outside, the street had thickened. More cars, More laughter, more energy. It felt like a fair without permits. I leaned against the trunk of my car. Sarah and Dodie drifted toward a group of their old Berea High friends, and I stayed back, observing. That's when I started noticing the patterns. On one side, a cluster of men near a lamppost, small bills flashing, quick handoffs. They weren't hiding it, but they weren't flaunting it either. Another group leaned against a car with the trunk open. Coolers inside, condensation dripping. They were selling liquor by the bottle, cold ones, even single shots in plastic cups. Farther up, I spotted women in sundresses and Daisy Dukes walking back and forth between the train station and a car that hadn't moved all night. Each time they came back, they'd stop at a group by the park entrance, wait, then walk off again with something in their hands. And then there was the dice table, or what passed for one. A big wooden board sitting on milk crates, surrounded by men yelling numbers and placing bets. Money fanned out across the surface, each bill claiming a hope. It wasn't chaos, it was organized, in its own way. Every person out here had a product, a lane, a rhythm. "Stop looking like the police!" Dodie's voice cut through my thoughts. She walked up laughing, her drink sloshing. "You gon' get us ran off the block?" "I'm just watching," I said. "That's what police say before they ask for ID," she teased. Sarah came over smirking. "She trying to figure out this ecosystem." "Ecosystem?" Dodie said. "Girl, this the jungle." Sarah laughed. "Nah, this hood economics?" Dodie's eyes twinkled. "Who told you that?" Before Sarah could answer, a voice came from behind me. Smooth, low, with a hint of amusement. I did. I turned. A young man stood a few feet away. He looked 16, but I later found out he was 13, slim but strong, wearing a clean white tee, gold chain, and the kind of calm confidence that made space around him. His smile was lazy, but his eyes were sharp. "You the one with the car from out of town, right?" he said. "I'm from here," I said. "Just work nights." "Ah, a professional," he said, stepping closer. "Respect. Name's part-time." I raised an eyebrow. "Part-time what?" He grinned. "Everything. Depends on what you need." Sarah chuckled. Lord, here he go. Part-time ignored her, still looking at me. "You keep staring at folks like you taking notes." "You new out here?" "Not new," I said. "Just observant." He nodded approvingly. "Good trait. Let me break it down for you then, since you observin' without context." He gestured toward the street like a tour guide at the Museum of Survival. "See them over there by the lamppost? That's the weed boys. Small bills, fast product. Them by the train tracks? That's the ticket man's crew. Numbers racket. They take bets on everything from sports to birthdays. You see the dude with the cooler? That's the liquor man. He got single beers, mini pints, even loose cigarettes and cigars. Whatever you need to keep your night hydrated." I followed his hand as he pointed out each group. "What about the ones by the park gate?" I asked. He smirked. "That's the candy crew, except they ain't selling candy. You follow?" I nodded, but I had no idea what he was talking about. He cocked his head and said, "You green as grass, huh?" My mouth curved into a grin I couldn't help. "Crack? Powder? Horse? Man, take your ass home. You not ready." "And them over there," he continued, "that's the gamblers. They feed everybody. The house gets a cut. Side bets fly. Money circles round and round. And you see the older lady sitting on that cooler by the grill? She's the plate lady. Fried chicken, rice, mac, beans, whatever. Half this street eat off her." He leaned closer, voice dropping low. "All them together? That's hood economics. Everyone a contractor. No boss, no W-2. Everybody feeding off hustle and timing." I studied him a second. "So, basically capitalism without the suits." He laughed, genuinely. "Exactly. Welcome to Hood Economics. Doty cracked up. Not Hood Economics. But part-time just smiled at me. You get it, though. Most people come down here looking for trouble. You just look like somebody who needed to understand how it works. I shrugged. Guess I like order, even if it's hidden. He nodded. That's how it starts. Something in the way he said it made me pause. The way what starts? I asked. He just smiled again. Unreadable. Curiosity. It's contagious. Later that night, long after we'd left Washington Street and the music faded behind us, that line kept echoing in my head. Curiosity. It's contagious. He wasn't wrong, because when I closed my eyes, I could still see the money passing hands, the rhythm of it all. And somewhere deep down, a voice whispered, "They don't fire you from this kind of work." If you made it to the end of this episode, please like and subscribe so you won't miss any new episodes. Thanks for dropping by. See you soon.